You're listening to the Hello DTC show presented by Beaconstac, a show where champions from consumer brands reveal their secret sauce for growth. This is where the best DTC stories are narrated, from one successful brand to another.
Hello everyone, and thanks for listening to the Hello DTC podcast. I'm Monika and I work with Beaconstac, a solution built for CPG brands to connect their physical commerce with their digital worlds. DTC in the last year and a half has changed the way products are built. Historically, bigger CPG brands were hiring agencies to study consumer sentiment, their likes and their dislikes. Cut to the new age DTC brands, they're not just cutting the middleman out of the equation, but they're also limiting the need for such agencies because they're talking directly to consumers. And more importantly, they build products to solve a customer problem and not just launch the nth night care product with a brighter packaging. And in my opinion, this change is pivotal. The next generation of CPG brands, big or small, are all going to be built using these DTC principles. And therefore, this episode is very important if you're looking to move from a traditional CPG model to a DTC one or looking to build a DTC brand from scratch. On this episode of Hello DTC, we have Samriddh Dasgupta, VP Marketing at Bombay Shaving Company. In the last 18 years of his marketing career, he has helped various traditional and digital-first brands grow exponentially. Currently, he leads marketing and new initiatives at Bombay Shaving Company, a personal grooming brand for men and women. Hey Samriddh, welcome to the podcast.
It's terrible of me to have requested you to do this over the weekend, but thank you for taking your time.
No problem at all. So, did your weekend and weekday discipline change as a result of the pandemic?
One into the other. It's been one long day over the last year, but it's also been a rather enjoyable time. I think we have learned a lot. We have grown as individuals. I think the pandemic has, in some form, brought a lot more reality and a lot more humility to the way we have become.
Also, the balance between family and work, I think the pandemic has taught us that. It's a beautiful mix of how you can just walk out of your room, just have coffee with your family, come back and start working.
Another thing to recognize is that, time is finite. I think that's one thing that we have been sort of looking at as an infinite resource, but the most finite thing that we have is time. So a lot of at least I'm hoping that you are in the same sort of mindset where we have started to rationalize the time a lot more. So we know why we are spending time on what. And I think that's very important. So this was actually a good way to look at a Sunday morning with my cup of coffee next to me.
Awesome. So tell me more about Bombay Shaving Company and how does it stand out as a brand for both women and men?
We are just really, really, really good at knowing how hair removal works, how the skin reacts to things, complexity of hair removal. We don't claim to know a lot of things really well. We're kind of like really sharp focused in terms of what we do really well. And that's helped us. As a brand, when we started about 4.5-5 years back, there was a very clear need in the market. The need was about emerging trends in terms of grooming, emerging trends when men were putting a lot more focus in the way they were looking. Matrimonial sites were coming up, dating apps were emerging. So go back to an ecosystem where men suddenly were under the radar to look really good. Pressure. Traditionally, India has always been, and rather unfortunately so, been a cultural space where the onus of looking good has been on women, and men can get away with anything. It doesn't matter, right? It's also because I think the way society has been structured is a woman's looks sort of, and as I said, rather unfortunately, her ability to get married or her ability to rise in many ways, and the man was never put under the radar, right? And last 5 or 6 years, where men have started to focus a lot more on the way they look, women have become more demanding, and thankfully so. Culture has become more demanding, very, very important. And just, showing up not groomed doesn't work. And this is something that we have seen as a very strong emerging consumer trend over the last 7, 8 years, but from a product perspective over the last 4 or 5 years. Of which we were very clear that we were going to deal with a premium range of shaving products and solutions, and each of them was going to be very carefully and very meticulously put together, right? So if you go back to the first product that we launched, we didn't launch one razor or one shaving foam. We launched a 6-part system which would take men through the experience of shaving, because shaving traditionally has not been an experiential thing, it's been a chore. So we wanted to turn that into an experience. On the back of that success, where we launched our metal razor, which is a steel razor, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's got your name engraved on it if you want it, and so on and so forth. So it's very deeply personalized. And we built out that product line, and since then we have expanded that product line into many different interventions. Um, so, uh, so I think Bombay Shaving Company does 2 or 3 things really well. One, we understand consumer needs. We predict emerging needs very fast, right? So. One of the things that we have done over the last year or so is we went into women's shaving and women hair removal, and we were to predict that trend really fast because we were watching what was moving on both marketplaces, feedback from our existing customers. Um, we are a men first brand. Our customers are actually women because they buy the products for their partners or their brothers and so on and so forth, right? Certain degree of love and care in the products that they were buying for as gifting solutions. We started talking to them early stage last year when the first lockdown happened, and we realized that they had very specific needs for hair removal, which were not being met. There was not one brand which was meeting very specific needs. It was scattered across. And second, there was also a requirement for products to be of very high quality and not just take a razor and make it pink. So that was like a really very important emerging trend, that don't just pack male centric products for us in a different color, uh, but genuinely understand what we need. So we put in a lot of effort and a lot of research in trying to understand the different skin nuances of what happens when women shave, for example, right? What happens when you shave your face? What happens when you shave your arms? The different kinds of pre-shave and post-shave products that are very important to both prepare the skin and then after that to soothe the skin. And shaving is a cultural thing. It's a problematic thing because you have not been told from beginning that shaving is okay. Or most women have been going to salons, but the moment salons shut down, the DIY thing at home became a little bit of a problem. So our product team goes headfirst into these problems that are there, because culturally and physiologically these become complicated to handle. But we go head first. We speak to our customers. We call them. We do surveys with them. We have closed user groups. We prototype. We test the prototypes of the product. And I think that's where Bombay Shaving Company becomes really, really interesting, because none of our products have come to the market without having been tested by at least 150 200 people who are part of the core user group, right? And then we start to get a lot of feedback from the market itself. So once we launch product, we make sure that we are at the retail level, we are taking feedback, we are speaking to our dealers, distributors, and our end customers. So there's a lot of care, compassion, empathy, and just ingenuity that goes behind making these products, right? And we believe in incremental innovation. So just take something and just make it slightly better, but keep making it better. So don't stop when you made it slightly better. Like iterate, make the next batch better and the next batch better and the next batch better, right? Because we can do that. That's the agility of being a company of both our scale and size, which is not small, so we get enough feedback, but also not so big that we can't change and adapt and move fast. Yeah, so that's about us. Yeah, we're just really good at shaving and hair removal. Honestly speaking, I don't think there's any other company in the direct-to-consumer CPG emerging brand space which understands shaving and hair removal as well as us. But there are, of course, others who do skincare better than us, maybe, or hair care better than us, right? And they're doing a fabulous job. But I think shaving, we're really, really good.
You actually just articulated why DTC brands are so good at understanding their customers and how they build their product.
I think we need to change the terminology a little bit, Monica. We need to stop looking at things as products and we need to start looking at them as solutions, right? I think products is what large companies make and they put them on a shelf. They're just products. They have they have low soul um, and low involvement, right? So they become so. I'm not saying what they have done traditionally to build the market has been wrong because India is a very complex market. It's very nuanced also. And with every 10 kilometers, language changes, preferences change, people change, so on and so forth, right? But we can't fight that fight, right? We can't fight either the distribution fight, and neither can we fight that mass advertising fight, right? Um, what is create specific solutions which are superbly interesting, very sharply defined, and then find very interesting intervention points and storytelling to be able to put them out, right? So if we don't create solutions, then we will always end up selling products. But I think where D2C brands come in is primarily that we're able to sell solutions.
That's actually a very, very good way of putting it. I think that summarizes everything that we're going to talk today. And just a heads up, this is a very selfish episode because I'm really looking to learn how to take that consumer feedback and put it back to the solution in building a solution. So I'm really looking to break this down and learn from the experts from DTC.
If you're happy to answer, yeah.
So first things first, let's just discuss this and then move on to the other things. So there's a lot of social chatter around. Does that qualify as product feedback?
Everyone lives in their own echo chamber. Okay, so you have your echo chamber, I have mine. Um, I'm I'm a 38-year-old man who lives in Delhi. So clearly, my echo chamber is very different from, let's say, someone who's probably 26 and living in, Bombay. Very different, right? Culturally, very different. Spatially, very different. As a brand, unfortunately, also the echo chamber applies to you because it's not as diverse, right? The consumer intersection points don't happen. Social listening tools are extremely biased to most extents. You need to be able to craft the social listening algorithm to your preference. So your booleans, for example, need to be far more complicated than one can imagine in today's world. There's a lot of chatter happening in regional languages. Most of social listening, then again, sort of bypasses that and misses it. I think here is where you need to, us as brands also need to evolve. And I don't think any of us are doing it really, really well because we are all emerging into this scale and size where we need to. So it's not like we started from day one and we have just been able to perfect it. Um, okay. And the way we look at social chatter is the following. There's feedback that rests on e-commerce, for example, right? So there's Amazon, Flipkart, Nykaa, Myntra, social commerce. And as a brand, we are everywhere. So this feedback exists. A lot of that is feedback, which is um, because these are post-purchase feedback. Have a fantastic experience, they never write about it. When people have a bad experience, they always go and write about it. Right. So we are a very vocal community when it comes to that, and we are a very non-vocal community when it comes to basic things like, "Hey, I love this." We even declare love a lot more than a lot less than we declare hate. Right. So we declare love a lot less than we declare hate. Unfortunately, as human beings. And I think that's really where you need to start filtering. Okay. So is this feedback coming out of sheer amount of aggression, which is maybe the product didn't reach at the right time, maybe it was a packaging issue, maybe it was a very specific product issue. So what we have is we have a team of people who scout our e-commerce platforms. We are constantly looking, we are scraping that data, we are looking at customer satisfaction scores. We are trying to make sure that we take all these insights and then feed it back to our product team. We feed it back to our e-commerce partners, and we ask them, "Hey, was this a function of logistics? Was this a function of product packaging? Was this a function of the customer itself?" Right? Uh, Process, but I think we are getting better every day.
So, social feedback can be used in limited capacity, like you said. But what are the other sources of customer feedback for Bombay Shaving Company?
So, as emerging brands, you're going to have two or three different sources of feedback. One is your existing customer base, which is clear, right? It's a customer base that is attuned to um, 150 customers that you probably have got. So, I'm talking about very early stage. I'm not talking about Bombay Shaving Company stage anymore, right? So, early stage, someone who's entering, you're gonna get your first 100 customers. You will expect brutal honesty from these first 100 customers because it's very important. Okay, we will need that. Now, once we have got this first 100 customers in, start breaking them down into very specific cohorts. Okay, and then see if there is a homogeneity in any of these cohorts. So what we realized is that uh, we had the we had the 34 to a 40-year-old man, right, who was looking at a shaving products, and they had very specific needs. They had their needs were hair loss, for example. So we came up with a hair loss solution, right? Then we had a 25 to a 34-year-old, um, a very specific need. They were sometimes shaving and sometimes keeping a beard. So we got a beard solution in place, right? Uh, then we also have a 22 to a 34-year-old woman with us who wants to gift, but at the same time she also needs a certain set of products. So we got, for example, a hair mask, which is not just for men, but it's a gender neutral product which also has women in it, right? Which also has beautiful product with beautiful sort of superfoods in it, which help a woman sort of look at the product with more favorability, right? We learned that women want a little bit more attention um, when it comes to the kind of products that we are creating. Okay. Now, whether that was just ingredient based or just taking our entire range and making it no SLS and no paraben, right, and removing toxicity, we started to do that. So we emerged over the last 3 years as becoming a lot more conscious about the product line, a lot more focused in terms of what needs down into specific cohorts. So we realized that the 22 to a 30-year-old male is probably not talking about SLS and paraben as much as the 22 to a 34-year-old woman. You know, we also realized that a 34 to a 45-year-old man is going to react more favorably towards something that is far more premium and customized and personalized as opposed to a generic solution that you're going to get, right? So we took our first 200 odd customers and we started breaking them down into cohorts, and then we started to go back and take feedback from those cohorts. And then we sort of build that out as a hypothesis and then do it at scale. That's how it works. And then you go back and do it again and again and again every month. And that's the only way you learn, right? Of course, you have digital platforms that give you that kind of nuance, which is important. So you should look at your GA very closely. You should see what are the keywords that people are using to come back and find you. If you're on a platform like Shopify, you'll know what people are searching for on your store. So that's also the source of data. Look at your social feed, which is very important, which is where you post something and not just about others talking about things, but when you post something, what are people coming and asking for or requesting? We get a lot of direct messages asking us to create very specific solutions. We get brickbats and we get love. We take the brickbats and then we sort of filter them down into what it was, and the love goes back into just making us feel very good about the work we do. Right? I'll give you a very very cute example. We just finished our Father's Day campaign. Okay, and someone got one of our Father's Day gifts. So we're a very strong gifting brand because we take a lot of care in terms of the packaging, and we put a lot of effort in making sure that it reaches you in the nicest way possible. So we just finished a Father's Day campaign, and someone wrote to us saying, my dad was living very far away, and during the pandemic, of course, I couldn't go and meet him. And I've never celebrated Father's Day till date. Okay, I've never celebrated Father's Day, and I saw your post, and it moved me. So I've given him something, and this is the first time that my dad actually sent me a note saying the best money you could have spent. Because till now he's always been like, why do you spend money on me? But this one he's like, yeah, you've really really spent money the right way. So I think somewhere, right, it comes down to adding value, and that value we can add once we know what people want and what people need. So we customized it. She put her father's name on the razor. We sent it to him with his name on the razor. We have just launched uh, our two different colors. So we have launched it in gunmetal and in black. So not just the color, we have actually changed the metal composition. So the metallurgical thing has changed, which makes it longer lasting, which makes it easier to grip, which makes the water fall off easier and all of that. So as I said, we take a lot of care in making our products. So she sent that across to him and he loved it, right? And that's customer feedback, right? And that's what really drives us. Similarly, someone else said that I sent the product to him and he found it difficult to open the box. So now what we're doing is we're putting like a magnetic clasp on the box for the next round. So now we know what we want to do with our packaging because it's an evolutionary process, right? So I think these are small things that as nuances, and no matter how small or how big, we take every feedback, we sort of go back and we say, can we do this? Can we make it better, right? And that's the orientation of the organization.
So there are a couple of doubts I have here. So one, you said that people who keep writing to you, that's feedback for you, which is great. But don't you think that this could be a more ad hoc method? And I'm sure for a brand, they do have processes which are done on an ongoing basis, right? This is the process that I will do to identify my users, and then go ahead and schedule interviews with them and things like that. So how do you balance that out? And obviously these one-offs are obviously very helpful.
No, it's not a one-off actually. This is one of probably 100, 200 odd things that we get very regularly. So we have a full-scale customer insights team. The customer insights team has two two focus areas. One is to look at evolving trends. So if there's a future trend, they look at it, they study it deeply, they look at market size, they look at product market fit, and then we start to create interventions. Example, we have just launched our face razor for women, but it's biodegradable. So it's made of wheat straw. So this came from a sheer insight that women wanted a face razor, but they didn't want to use plastic. So, for example, we went down um, multiple threads of conversations, and we found that there was a need for that product. So the customer insight team does that really well, which is it looks at emerging needs. Second, we make calls, we make personal calls. So we have a team that actually just sits and does that. Second, and the third thing that we do is we send out emailers to people, asking them for very specific feedback. The fourth thing that we do is we have Google alerts for a bunch of things that people are going to be speaking about, and just alerts works really well. So that's the mechanism that we've got, and we end up getting sort of some degree of input from there. The fifth thing that we do is we look at forums, very specific forums. So Reddit has a bunch of threads where people can come in and speak about things. Um, there are comments that are left, as I mentioned, on social media. YouTube is actually a fantastic space where people come in and leave comments on your videos, especially when you put your DIY videos and how-tos and so on and so forth, right? All this is put together into a mechanism where the customer insights team actually gets that data and scrapes it, turns it into very specific interventions. Yeah. It's a manual process. You can put a machine on top of this, of course, right? So, for example, you can put a meltwater on top of this, just giving you a very random example, right? Or emerging and slightly more D2C focused platforms. The problem is you're only going to be as sharp as what social conversations are. You're never going to go a level deeper. And that level deeper is critical for a direct to consumer company or a CPG emerging brand, right? That one level deeper is what helps us build those solutions that I spoke about. Otherwise, we will always look at products. And then you're going to have someone who's going to classify all of this under an operational feedback and a product feedback, and that's where it's going to land. It's not going to go beyond that, right? And you're going to look at a customer sort of sentiment score, and you're going to be very happy with that sentiment score. The problem with sentiment scores, again, is that it's data bias. We don't personally believe that the data bias helps us. Yeah. The third thing that we look at very closely is our repeat customer cohort. Okay, it's a very clear indication of whether the product works very well or not, right? And if at any month your repeat customer cohort for very specific products, which are monthly use products, they're going down, then clearly there is a problem, right? Second is we do beta launches, which is where we take our first sort of prototype of a product or the first 500 units of a product, and we just send it to our existing customer base. And that tells us where there's going to be an emerging product market fit or not. I think a lot of consumer brands do that. So I'm not revealing something that most people don't do, but it's a part of the life cycle of a brand, right? So I think these are very specific things that one needs to do rather than just look at putting a method to the madness, because the method of the madness exists. It's just that we have different sources of these madness, right? So we have source from a customer calling perspective. So we get inbound calls, for example. Those inbound calls are put through Freshdesk, they're put through Exotel, they're recorded, they're documented, right? Then the customer insights head is sort of sitting through it and looking at it and then making sure that we have the right kind of information that comes out from it, right? Then she's turning them into a consumable, insight-driven, actionable report that goes back to management. Then management sort of gets into it and says, hey, let's try and solve these problems, right? It's a logistical problem, let's solve it. It's a packaging problem, let's solve it. It's a product, let's solve it, right? If it's a communications or a marketing problem, let's solve it, right? I think those are the kind of things that really help, because when you have different divisions who are lockstep with the consumer insights piece, and the consumer insights piece then turns into an actionable, that's really where you start to see success, not otherwise. So yeah, your doubt is fine, but it's about putting personal effort and time, right? It's not going to happen otherwise. So it's hard work.
Yeah, of course, it is a lot of work, but I'm sure it's worth the work.
Oh, every bit of it, every little bit of it, right? If I had to spend 10 hours of my time doing something in the day, I would much rather listen to my customers for those 10 hours.
Right. And also, I was recently reading one of the retail or fashion digital magazines. I'm not sure which one, but I was reading an article about Good American, which is a denim focused digital brand. And it said initially the brand did not manufacture denims for the segment of women who fall under the sizes 14 and 16. And the brand was seeing maximum returns from these two sizes, 14 and 16. And that's when their co-founder basically invited these ladies to the office and ended up creating a new size in between, which was size 15. And that became, the best-selling sizes for them. And imagine that did not exist before. And I thought that was wonderful. But I was also wondering, how do you get that right feedback from users? Because most of the times feedback is very subjective, right? How do you get the objective insights from the subjective feedback?
There's no science to it, unfortunately. You just have to do it over and over again. So suppose there's a hypothesis that you built with the first 100 conversations that you've had. You take that hypothesis and you check that hypothesis with the next 100. See if they resonate with the same thing. Listen, it's trial by fire, okay, to a very large extent. And the second thing is, if you don't have a strong bias towards one of the things that you learn, you'll never act, because you're always going to be in this analysis paralysis mode. And unfortunately, that's not what direct-to-consumer brands should be at. You can analyze 10,000 things, but you're going to be paralyzed by the sheer inaction that comes out of that analysis. So one of the things that we do is we build a hypothesis, then we go very quickly out in the market and we check that hypothesis. So our hypothesis was that women will want very specific hair removal solutions. They will not just stop out at a body razor. They will need a face razor, maybe an epilator, maybe a hair removal cream, maybe wax strips, maybe something else and something else as you go ahead, right? It's an emerging category. Women are discovering new needs and they're discovering new ways of fulfilling those needs, because the pandemic has forced all of us to rethink salon visits to a very large extent, right? Never has there been a time when you've spent so much time on video. So now that you're always on video, you are very conscious about your face. People will keep touching their face through interviews like these, for example, right? Because you're conscious about it. And when you're conscious about things, a lot of dating has become very video-led, right? Because people have now become extremely long distance. You're speaking to family members on video a lot more. So with video and high definition video, you're looking at yourself. You see all those, you see inefficiencies on your face. Okay, according to me, I don't think there's anything. Well, but vanity sort of still strikes, right? We're very human. So if you see something that you would want corrected, or you would want to do better, or you just groom yourself more, or you just want to look better than how you look at that moment, you will find a solution for it, right? So the thing is, our first hypothesis was that women will need these kind of solutions. So we took the product, we put it in the hands of people who are going to use it. We did the first product market, culture market fit. So for us, it's not just product market fit, it's a culture fit, right? It's a product to culture fit, it's a product to market fit, it's a product to community fit, it's a product to region fit, right? And if you can get those 3 or 4 things right, then at the end of the day, you are in a nice place, because you know that this product is going to work very well. So to answer your question, you have to do it over and over again. So you build the first hypothesis, go out, test that, come back, test it again, stop at a point when you think this is enough of testing, and now put it out and learn from the market, because that's what we are very good at doing as D2C brands, which most legacy brands will not be able to do.
Correct, right. And you also mentioned that you first build the beta product, give it out to the 200 people, and hear what they have to say. So how do you figure out who those 200 people are? How do you identify them?
These people have been nurtured over many, many years. Yeah. These are people whom we trust. These are people who give us scathing feedback. These are well-wishers of the brand. They have been with us for a very long period of time. They're spread out very well. They're from different age groups. They're from different regions. There's a very strong gender balance and gender mix there. We try to avoid friends and families as much as possible, because there's always a very strong bias there. Everyone loves the product. But we do take their feedback because it's important. But the cohort that we have built over the last few years is very sharply defined. It's not through a market research agency. It's just through sheer hard work. Yeah. So again, there's a lot of nurture and care that goes into creating solutions. We also have a very strong partner base who do institutional sales for us, who are our dealers and our distributors. They give us very strong feedback because they're in sync with the market needs, right? So institutional players, for example, the ones who make gifting solutions for large-scale corporates or alcohol companies and pharma companies and so on and so forth, and we work with a lot of them directly. They come back and they say, "Hey, can you create something which is an emerging requirement?" Right? So now we know if a very large corporate has an emerging requirement, then the requirement is coming from people who are a part of that corporate, their human resource. And for us, that's a very clear indication of where the market is moving, right? So don't ignore retail feedback, don't ignore institutional feedback, because we go direct to consumer and we think, okay, this is it. It's just digital, and we're going to have a few people who are going to come in and speak about the product on social media. Maybe you're going to get some Instagram feedback or Facebook and so on and so forth. But there is the full-scale, large, insight-based weighting when it comes to institutional sales, when it comes to retail, when it comes to just your dealers and distribution network, right? And that's where Bombay Shaving Company is very strong, because we are not just a digital only brand. We're a digital first, but retail strong brand, and that's where we get a lot of this.
Yeah, and over this conversation, what I'm able to figure out is there are 2 stages of feedback that you take. One, which is when you've just launched a beta product, when you're just building it, prototyping it, and then the second one, which is when it's already out in the market, the feedback that you get from your retailers and your focus groups. So is the listening and reacting process the same for both of these, or is there a difference?
The first one is a little bit more aggressively done, because we want to put out the best beta out there so that we don't have to iterate on it. The first one is very aggressive. It's multiple testing, pre-testing, blind testing, sensorial testing. We do all of that. So we do a lot of sensorial testing, because our products are not just about the post-usage or the pre-usage piece. It's actually the post-usage feel. So we do an insane amount of sensorial testing. And the second one is a little bit more latent from a requirement perspective. We do believe that if the product is good, it's just going to move very well, and then it's done at scale, right? Because once the product is out there, you have the first 200 people. If they're coming back to you with very sharp insights, then great. But you also need to know how to you need to know how to filter those insights, right? Sometimes you don't have to act on them, but sometimes you do. So we do look at that. We look at that over a period of time. We don't look at that just at the first stage. So the first one is aggressive. The second one is a little bit more controlled, but both are equally important. I think the second one is what drives scale. The first one is what drives entry.
Last time when we spoke, you spoke about something very interesting, which is the marketing model at Bombay Shaving Company. Not just the marketing model, the way Bombay Shaving Company functions. And I thought that was very interesting.
I hope I say the same thing that I said last time. Uh, it was, it's something that we do believe in, and this is really where it comes down to, right? I think the four P's everyone knows, right? So you have product, you'll have price, you'll have packaging, you'll have placement, and that's sort of the de facto way marketing has been built over the last few years. Actually, the last few decades, not just years, right? I think anyone who went to MBA school and then walked out of it, or went to any communication school, walked out of it, was told these are the four P's of marketing. The problem is the world's evolved, right? The world doesn't want a price advantage or disadvantage only. The world doesn't only want beautiful packaging if that beautiful packaging doesn't link to some degree of purpose. The world doesn't only want great placement. You don't necessarily have to have the product right next to them. They are very happy to come to your website and buy it because they're willing to put in that time and effort, right? I think in some form the challenge, and it's not even media anymore, right? Because media is very fungible. Now most brands are not even on TV, so it doesn't matter, right? So the media part is gone. I think it needs a redefinition. So while we focus on those because they're sort of critical to the overall ecosystem, but one of the things that we have realized, and as a brand, we will be deeply unsuccessful if we don't focus on this. Is the passion that we have. Okay, people have different passion points. The brand positioning model itself has evolved. Okay, so the marketing model or business models have evolved. Business models are here to fuel people's passion. Look at an organization or a company like Red Bull. It fuels the passion of people who want to be up and active and doing things. Nike fuels the passion of runners. Okay, they don't fuel anything else. They fuel that passion, right? We fuel the passion of people to look good and feel great. So the Bombay Shaving Company sits up every morning and says, "Are we fueling the passion of people who want to look better, who want to feel better about themselves?" Right. So that's the first thing we do. So passion becomes an important piece, and passion is evolutionary, right? Today, you might be deeply passionate about I might be deeply passionate about my hair being slightly long. Tomorrow, I might want to change it because I'm deeply inspired by something else, right? I'm clean shaven today. I might grow a beard tomorrow. But these are evolutionary passions that are going to change with culture, with trends, with evolutionary models that are going to happen from the consumer product space. So the desire that is being created, we're very cognizant of that. So we build a brand, we build a business on the back of fueling people's passion to look good and feel great. The second P, the additional P for that matter, okay, is literally people. I think most brands have this massive, brilliant storytelling capacity through the people who work with them, right? Or the people who represent them. What we do is we find these amazing stories to be told, but we try and find also the right people who can go out and tell that story. And I'm not talking about influencers at all. I'm talking about people like you, people like me, right? I'm talking about the people who are genuinely with us as part of our ecosystem, as part of a stakeholder system. We have a 60% women workforce in our warehouse, and each of them has a story to tell. And that story is about how they're working in a they're working in a warehouse, right? So it's a very male space, but our warehouse is a very women-friendly space, right? And it was done very consciously. It was done with the intent that if we can impact women in the communities that we work with and the regions that we are operating at, and in this case, this northern India. Our warehouse is in Manesar, for example, right? And we love the fact that women from the neighboring sort of community space are coming in and working here. It's a safe space for them. They're learning and they're being able to go back and teach their kids, right? So they're in a safe environment and they're being able to grow. I think that is so deeply important because you forget the impact that as a brand you will have on people. Most direct-to-consumer brands think that they're too small to impact lives. We aren't. We are big. As a collective, we are huge, right? I think one thing that direct-to-consumer brands need to recognize, and this is, I've worked with large-scale, sort of very complexly driven consumer brands, and have worked with, in the last 3 or 4 years, I've worked with emerging D2C brands, right? I think collectively, we're so strong that we forget it sometimes because it's the daily sort of fight, right? But we forget that our impact and the choices that we make are impacting people's lives like nowhere before. So we have dealers and distributors who get higher margins because they're working with brands like us. We have women in workforces and women in places where it would have been completely, almost next to impossible for them to be there, right? We have a workforce which is building products for women, and these products would not have been built because they're so niche. The market size is still so small, right? So the impact on people and the brand taking that space and the business taking that space and talking about it is so critical. So if the first was about finding passion, the second was about finding people who represent that passion and finding people who are absolutely brilliant at expressing that passion and people who are going to be impacted by the actions that you do. So people becomes a very center point of focus for a brand like Bombay Shaving Company. And the last P, which I think a lot of people have spoken about, and everyone speaks about it in various derivatives, is purpose. But that purpose, for us, purpose is not just about environmental impact, but our purpose is a little bit more than that. Our purpose is to impact the lives of the people whom we are working with, right? And our purpose is to make sure that we are building niches which can then turn into mega sectors. Our purpose is to make sure that if today someone is going to think about products on a shelf, they're given a choice. Large-scale consumer companies have taken choice away or had taken choice away. It's important to put choice back into this equation, right? And I think that's how the economy grows. That's how India grows with emerging trends, because you're being able to put choice back in the hands of people. Today, if you were to try and find a product on a shelf on Amazon, or you were to go out and try and find a product, which is, let's say, a face wash or a beard products or a shaving products. Like yesterday, I was at Apollo and we had a Gillette, we had a Nivea, we had a Palmolive, we had all of them. Right next to them, there's a Bombay Shaving Company shaving foam, right? And the choice was never there. So till before this, most organizations or most consumers were only going and picking up exactly what the large player would want. There's nothing wrong with the large players. They have done that really well. So they have helped us create that market. But it's important to put that choice back. So that's also a purpose that we have. So while our purpose is to make sure that we are impacting the environment the right way, impacting lives the right way, impacting our stakeholders' ecosystem, and being able to give back more to our investors. Those are all purpose-driven organizations, right? At the same time, for the end customer, I spoke about the solutions piece. So that's the purpose. Can we bring more solutions? And second piece was, can we bring purpose from a choice perspective? So can we start to focus on jarring the market rather than just using what is there right now, right? I think that's very important. That's how the organization is styled, right? So we focus on product, we focus on purpose, we'll focus on people, we focus on passion, and everything else sort of just becomes a derivative from there. That's how we are.
That's fantastic. Bombay Shaving Company has truly done a great job, both with customer insights and also building a product that's very sustainable. We recently had a customer though at Beaconstac. It's a Fortune 500 food and beverage brand. They added a dynamic QR code on their product packaging. And what that QR code really does is opens a survey form and asks a very specific question. And what they did beautifully was, since it's dynamic, they keep switching the questions every month. And obviously that does not require changing the QR code on the packaging. And I think that was very smart.
Absolutely agree with it. I think it's a great idea. Why not? That a few times. I think we haven't done that at scale enough to for me to have a very strong point of view on that. But hey, I love any kind of technological intervention. Right? I started my career with consumer tech, so for me, any consumer tech is just absolutely brilliant.
This was really insightful, especially for someone who's looking to have customer feedback in the mainstream and try to change that into objective feedback and put it back, complete the feedback loop with respect to the solution. This has been fantastic. Thanks a lot, Samriddh, for doing this with us.
No, not at all. I had a good time, and thank you so much for asking all these questions. Customer feedback and customer loops are mostly not spoken about very often. So thank you so much for doing this.